Are you holding back from marketing your consulting services because it feels too self-promotional? What if I told you that the very thing stopping you from being visible is actually preventing people who desperately need your help from finding you? My name is AJ Riedel. This is Thriving Through, the podcast where each week I have real conversations with seasoned, successful self employed consultants about what it really takes to build a profitable, sustainable, and fulfilling consulting practice. Today, I'm talking with Kirstin Brenders, an online business coach and mentor who spent nearly 20 years in corporate architecture and interior design before becoming what she calls an accidental entrepreneur. Kirstin's story is fascinating because she didn't follow the traditional path of picking a niche and sticking to it no matter what. Instead, she did something that might sound counterintuitive. She paid attention to which client conversations genuinely lit her up, and she had the courage to pivot her entire business based on that energy alignment. In this conversation, Kirstin shares how she went from helping interior designers with business systems to mentoring women through corporate to consultant transitions. But more importantly, she reveals the mindset shifts that allowed her to build a sustainable practice without burning out. She'll share why marketing yourself is actually an act of service, how to find your authentic voice by studying what resonates with you on social media, and why the book Essentialism changed everything about how she approaches her business. If you're struggling with inconsistent income, feeling uncomfortable with self promotion, or wondering whether you need to pivot your own consulting practice, this episode is going to give you permission to trust your instincts and follows what energizes you. Let's dive right in. Welcome to this episode of the Thriving Through podcast. Today, my guest is Kirstin Brenders. Kirstin, I'm so delighted to have you on the podcast today.
Oh, it's an honor to be here with you.
I always start out with the same question for all my podcast guests. What was your path to becoming a self-employed consultant?
Ooh. My path, I think there was several steps before I got here, but my path was I was originally in corporate for about almost 20 years. And I was in corporate architecture and interior design in the corporate setting. And I really did enjoy that field, what I did, really into um, team building, client management, and project management. And I enjoyed it leading up to, becoming a mom and then the pandemic. And those two experiences just really shook my world in a good way, but shook things upside down and made me look at things in a different perspective. My path to becoming an entrepreneur, I think I was more of like an accidental one. It wasn't something that I sought out, but it was something that was the conclusion or something I came to after feeling a lot of burnout. And so I stepped away from my corporate role thinking that it was just a 6 month reprieve. And in that time, I got to see women on LinkedIn or Instagram just leading their own businesses from their home or from abroad. And a whole world of opportunities opened up for me beyond my 9 to 5.
And you made that decision to go out on your own at that point.
That's when I did it. It was a step of like, maybe I had this idea of freelancing. Maybe let me test out this idea. Pitch at the time was working with taking all of that big firm architecture knowledge to the small business world. And so I started pitching services to help interior designers and architects behind the scenes build their businesses, right? With systems improvements or process improvements to helping people hire. Um, And that's how I got my foot in the door. And I tested that idea and freelanced with a few designers and had a couple of collaborations. And I was like, yeah, I think this could be definitely a business. And that is once I tested it and I kind of tiptoed into it, I was like, I'm going all in. I'm going all in. This is it for me.
So so initially it was interior designers, so smaller, like individuals or smaller companies.
Mhm.
Has your target market, your ideal client, evolved?
Yes, it has. So correct. So I was working on big projects in teams. So teams of 12 or more is what I was used to. But I felt like my sweet spot was helping women with five or less teammates. Really got into helping those individuals. And as I was going through those collaborations, a lot of them were gracious to call me a coach, a mentor, um, more than just helping them with management. And it was really an opportunity to look at myself in a whole new light, which I very much appreciated. And as I was hearing that from my existing clients, I started having other women reach out to me that were out of my niche, out of my ideal client, and they were reaching out to figure out, how did I leave corporate and start a business, or how did I start serving who I was serving? They were maybe in the same industry as me, but with the service based business and wanting to attract more creative CEOs. And so I think it was after the eighth call when somebody was like, can I pick your brain or can we have a discussion? I realized that they were looking for more than, you know, how to or more than advice. They were looking for a roadmap and they were looking for a mentor, somebody who's been there, just a few steps ahead of them. And so that's when I just saw an opportunity to create a different revenue stream, a different service as well. And I went all in on that. And I am currently in the middle of pivoting into online business coaching and mentorship. What I discovered was what really lit me up, yes, I was serving people that were in my industry for so long, and it was a joy to share that wisdom with them. But what really lit me up was those conversations when the women who were outside of my niche, the women who were still in corporate looking to figure out a different career path, when they started reaching out and asking me, how did I do it, asking for advice, I really learned after like the eighth call that these were not conversations based on like, how do you do it, or um, just simple advice. I think these women were actually looking for a mentor and a roadmap at the same time. And I just did an energy check with how those conversations made me feel. And I knew that there was something else there, something else inside of me that I could offer. And what's so great about being an independent business owner is that you can kind of flex or evolve into other roles. And so that's where I am currently at. I am evolving and I am helping women build their online businesses or businesses after corporate.
I love that. And I love what you said about that you paid attention to what was lighting you up, and that those conversations were lighting you up more than the path that you had started to go down. I, it it is admirable that you listen to it. And I think my tendency would have been to say, well, but I've already started down this path and I've done all this work, and I'd have to go back and redefine my ideal client and change my LinkedIn profile, and oh, it's too much. So, but you didn't do that. You listened to your gut and your heart.
Yes, but don't get me wrong, that conversation did happen internally, right? Of like, oh, if I did do that, and as I was talking to people who were still in or corporate or have their regular role, some people, when I was talking about what I was doing, so they're like, so you're changing your business? And I'm like, no, I'm not changing my business. So I did have some of that internal challenges or thoughts about it. But I think once I left that decision to kind of leave my role in corporate after having an education based in architecture and design, and then pivoting out and being able to surrender that part of my identity was the work. And so I think the decision to move along came about much quicker because I did that already before. Sorry, I already kind of hopped through that hurdle. So, but yes, I did. There was some doubt and there was some questioning and really evaluating what that meant. But it just, like I said, more driven by the energy of something. And I just was very curious about where this could go. And that's what, really propelled me forward.
And when did this kind of pivot? How long ago did this pivot happen?
About a year ago.
Okay. And what are you
Mhm.
doing differently now? Or did you decide that you needed to get other skills?
Yes, correct, true. So I am in a role right now where I do serve, I work independently as a consultant in studio manager, as a manager, as for a powerhouse interior designer. Just so I still have that side of me serving, supporting, building that team, helping her build that brand, right? Because she's the one with the vision. And I just really love helping, whether it's a business or somebody's new career, just really helping them take that vision that they have and bring it to reality. And then secondary, yes, I lead a mentoring group with the women that I've worked with one-on-one, and they stay within the community of, after we've worked one-on-one for several months, they still get the same support, inside a community. So we have people cheerleading for what they're doing, whether that is a small step or a big announcement. We're there. Part of my role is to be there and leading that community as well. But in
And is that
regards to, yeah, but to answer your questions in regards to skills, yes, some of the skills that I lean into is the coaching and the mindset work that I had to do on my own more post burnout from corporate, not necessarily from building my business, but though building a business is all about, the biggest self-discovery project you will ever have. But I was leaning a lot into the coaching that I received with, working on a relationship with myself, my time, and my relationship with money. And so a lot of those things that I worked on with my own coach, I started, obviously paying that forward and sharing some of that wisdom or how I got over a hurdle with the women today. And so much so that it's inspired me because I can study and I can learn and I love mindset and I love professional and personal development, so much so that this has actually put me on the path to pursue a coaching certification as well.
Okay. I want to talk about you talked about burnout was your original impetus.
Mhm.
And when we did our pre-interview, you mentioned that your career coach told you that you were heading down another path to burnout when you were applying for a corporate job. So
Yes.
walk us through how you worked with her to identify what energized you versus what drained you in that context, and how that clarified or how that clarity influenced the business that you ultimately built.
Yes, very true. I was working still in that mindset of, corporate is the only way to make money, the only way to feel successful. To me at the time, success felt like having that title, that role, having that 401k, um, and a just consistent income, right? Stability. But as the pandemic shook things up for me, really, I learned that, a 9 to 5 actually is not that stable as we all believe it to be. So that,
Mhm.
one of that pillars fell, right? One of those pillars of success for me fell during the pandemic, that a 9 to 5 is about stability. It's not. And then the second thing I was shifting and working with her was like, maybe the grass is greener on the other side. And I was looking to stay within the niche of buildings and architecture, but just maybe going towards the client side and not running a creative studio, but looking at it just a different role. Yes, it maximized my project management experience. But as we looked at the job description, one of the tasks or one of the homework assignments that she gave me was going through that job description, that job post, and highlighting in one color the things that, her, to use her words, were to energizing. What were the things that were energizing? And then what were the things in another color that sounded draining? And so, okay, and I do the exercise through a dialogue. We were realizing, I was highlighting, salary and, 401k, but some other things were lacking in the bottom of the list. And one of the things that she saw was, you were going to be working in isolation in this project. So it gives you the perfect title, great salary, but you wouldn't have a team, but you wouldn't have a team. And she clearly saw that, knowing that I used to teach and mentor the interns that would come through the firms that I worked at, she just felt like, I think you're going to feel isolated there, that you don't have anybody to lean on, you don't have anybody to develop, you don't have anybody to essentially work with. You're kind of going to be in a silo. And as soon as she helped me look at it that way, I was like, oh, wow. And we continue to look through the other things that were like, yes, by definition, like what I thought sounded successful, some of those tasks or some of those responsibilities would have burnt me out. And so I still, at that time, was still applying for other roles in corporate, but it was really that clarity, that moment right there that said, well, that's kind of like, maybe I will freelance and try something out. So, yes.
So you're attuned to the signs of burnout. Burnout can happen when you're self-employed too.
Yes, I
So
can.
how do you manage your business and your life to prevent burnout again?
Yes. One of the exercises that, I really lean into now is journaling and listening to myself and reflecting on my day. So, just taking a little bit of time to gather my thoughts in the morning instead of just racing right back onto that hamster wheel. I
Mhm.
have to remind myself that it was being unintentional or not thoughtful, if you will, about my time as a resource. Like, that's what brought me burnout. So I have to remember to be mindful of that. So for me, journaling, but I do energy audits quite often. So at the end of the day, my nervous system feels shot, or at the end of a week, if something just feels so wrong, I will, take some time and reflect, what is it? And that, something that recently happened to me in running my business, I joined a new group. And I also had something external with my son's school, right? I joined the classroom parents group chat. And what I realized was at the end of the week, I just had so many new people talking to me and so many new text messages and emails flying at me. And it would just felt overload. And it really was like, oh, okay, that's what did it. And then I was like, I need to set boundaries or just turn off some notifications. I didn't put my phone in do not disturb mode as quite as often as I'm used to doing that. So I always check in with myself as a business owner because I do feel like I am a CEO of myself now, and that's
Mhm.
how I stay out of burnout. And I know now to walk away. Like one of the things, like walk away from my desk and give myself some time. One of the things that I just did in corporate, and I didn't mean to, it was like just a productivity, um, I guess, trait that I had. But I would be working on something and I'd just be like, oh, I'll just finish it right now. It's easier if I finish it now and not come back to it later. And I would just, next thing I know, I'm at my desk doing something for another hour and my body aches or I'm tired or I ended up being late to, getting home for dinner or something. I've stopped doing that, right? I recognize that that was me. And so I intentionally, when I'm sitting down, I'm looking at something, whether it's a marketing piece or answering emails, I kind of set some limits. Like I'm going to do this for about 30 minutes and then I'll walk away. And if there's something that needs to be done, I'll find another time to finish that, right? So I'm a little bit more aware of how things also are taking time wise. So it doesn't rob me. So I don't, do that again to myself.
I like that. I mean, I can so relate to just pushing through. It's like your mind and your body are saying it's time to take a break. Or for me, I recognize that I'm not as productive and that maybe I'm really just kind of pushing words around the page. But
Mm-hmm.
that that feeling of I just want to get it done. I'm just going to keep pushing through. And, and learning to walk away before you get to that push part makes
Mm-hmm.
all the sense in the world.
Yes. Yeah. So it could be just simply going and getting that, that extra glass of water and just kind of thinking through and just be like, okay, wait, I said it. I want to finish this, but what is done? That I kind of say this a lot. What is done mean for me? So when I say done, I have to define that. So does done mean having a rough draft, or is done like full caboodle, so I'll
Mhm.
reshape that. But again, if I see that I'm pushing myself or heading down that way, I do tend to come aware and I kind of snap out of it and just be like, okay.
The importance of awareness.
Hmm.
You had an aha moment. You shared this beautiful reflection about when you hired your VA in marketing help, you realized that your dream became bigger than you.
Oh yes, that was
Tell me
my
about that.
yes. Oh yes. um One of the things that I was doing in my business was outsourcing items before, things that I needed help setting something up instead of spending, hours to figure out something on my own. I'm like, oh, I can hire somebody who knows what they're doing and who would be more efficient for them to do it. And so I was outsourcing for the time, and that was great. And then it came to where I definitely needed somebody on, on a daily basis to support me. And I just really, from bringing her on to our first few weeks, I realized was like, she started sharing my dreams with me, right? That she was like, she saw what I was trying to cast, the vision, and she was eager to help me get there and eager to support me. And just having somebody else see that vision just was like a fuel to me, for me to move forward. Um, so yeah, that was one of my favorite reflections for the year.
And how has it changed, or has it changed the way you think about your business?
Um, in the context of hiring support or bringing more, I it's definitely more about collaborating for me. I just shine with collaboration, right? I just really enjoy working with other individuals. And so it just proves that if I'm going, it just shows me that when there's other opportunities that I would maybe work for or look at doing in the future, it's just maybe different with marketing, knowing that I'm going to have an expert. I'm going to hire an expert to help me in that, right? So I think that's what's changed. That just gave me the confidence of like, you're gonna get faster if you go with a friend, or somebody else than trying to just keep on figuring it out. Because I know I can figure these things out and I know I can do it. But having somebody along for the ride is just more enjoyable.
And you get there faster often.
Yes. Yes, often, yes.
I want to switch gears and talk about the future. Is your consulting practice delivering the lifestyle you dreamed of?
Yes. Yes, it is. Um, it's based on me keeping those boundaries in place that that I've set for myself. But yes, I believe so.
And are you ahead or behind where you wanted to be by now?
Oh, I think there's those moments where I do say sometimes like, oh, I thought I was going to be further along, but I've learned now that it's a journey, and I like being on it. And so I think personally, right now, I truly believe I'm in the right place at the right time.
Where do you see your practice in the next 3 to 5 years?
I'm heading in the direction with being a coaching business model and less of that done for you service.
Mm-hmm. And hence the decision to get a coaching certification.
Correct. Yes, correct. I'm very excited about that. That's going to be starting here soon.
What do you think are going to be the biggest challenges to you in achieving that, of really embracing the coaching business model fully?
Learning just to market myself in a different way. That was, and I think I'm in that currently in that feeling of a challenge, but pivoting and like you alluded to earlier about like just talking about myself in a different way to a different type of audience. But like, if anything, my past showing me when I launched the business the first time, I figured out my voice, I figured out who, and I will be on that journey again to pivot and just hopefully talk louder, hopefully show up more than having all that self-doubt that I had when I first initially, came on the scene.
Mm-hmm. You have the benefit of knowing you did it once and you can
Yes,
do it again.
absolutely. I have the proof.
That's important. Oh, I
Mhm.
just had another thought. Oh, well. Oh, I know. What is different? How is your marketing going to be different with this pivot than it was before?
I think marketing for me, I was originally talking to other business owners. So, um, talking to small business owners versus now I'm going to be talking to individuals who are maybe stay at home moms that are looking to figure out a new career path, right? Or women in corporate who were essentially like me, they feel stuck. They feel like there's more to it, but the traditional 9 to 5 roles that they see aren't fulfilling their maybe purpose or values, or aligning with their values. And so I'll be talking more to an individual versus a business owner, right?
Okay. So
So
more
it's a
B2C than B2B.
um, yes, like yes, more, and I think on a little bit more personal level too, because when I was talking about done for you services with project management and studio management, that was a lot about processes or systems, and a little bit of touching on CEO mindset. This is a lot more personalized now. It'll be more personalized talking about somebody's life in total, not just their profession, but kind of how they want to redesign their career to have the lifestyle that they want.
That's important stuff.
I agree.
You took a purposeful pause when your son was 1. Tell me more about that.
Yes. It was the end of 2020, but I was glad I made it through that pandemic, working through things. But I was so burnt out. For the first time, I just felt like I needed to put myself first, and um, a lot of projects went on hold. And that for me was that opportunity that, and I just grabbed it. And so in that 6 months, I had a lot more time with him. Didn't need to put him into daycare because we weren't a two parent working household. So I had time with him to enjoy, because that goes so by. It just goes by so fast. I mean, so I had time with him, and then also it gave me some time to start listening to podcasts and exploring what else was out there as well. But it's funny, at the time, it felt like the longest 6 months, because I kind of had this struggle with, like, who am I if I'm not doing, right? And I never realized how much of my identity was just still tied up in my corporate role. But, looking back at it, it was the perfect amount of time to just reset and dream bigger again.
How do you navigate the realities of building a consulting practice while also being present as a parent? I mean, it's different than when you're in the corporate world. So
Mhm.
how have you managed all of that, finding that balance?
Well, so I work from my home office. So I think I'll be honest, taking out of a commute from my equation has been just the easiest place where I found balance. So there are um, slower mornings, and have time to eat breakfast with my son, for example, or have coffee with my husband before he rushes out the door. But my balance for me is still setting an ideal schedule. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, you work for yourself. It must be nice to set your own schedule." And yes, I do. But ironically, my week still has some structure to it, right? I tend to um, still set the hours that I have, but I just tend to, have less client time maybe on a Monday. So there's more time for my business or admin time for me. So I set kind of days of the weeks where I am of service, and then the other days of the weeks where I am of service to myself or my business and my household. But I also have to remind myself when I do leave, like, part of my closeout for the day is shutting this door, in my office door, because it's right here right here at the front of the house. So sometimes it will be tempting if I see the computer still on and I'm walking by, I'll be like, oh, did I do this? Or I could look at this, or maybe I'll check in on that. And if I shut the door, that keeps me from that overproductive, overworking mom that I am trying to avoid being.
That I'll just go back to my office for 5 minutes and then it turns into an hour.
Oh yeah. And I mean,
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, I'm human and it happens. But yeah, shutting that door does an amazing job of preventing that from happening.
I like that. It's like done with the day, door goes closed.
Hmm. Hmm.
Very cool. I have a couple questions. I call them my rapid fire wrap up questions as we come to the end of the podcast. What is one book, podcast, or resource that has been invaluable to building your consulting business and now coaching?
Coaching. The book Essentialism by Greg McKeown. I might have messed up his last name, but I think that is a book for anyone building a business or still in corporate. That book helped me heal from burnout, helped me understand that some of my habits, not just the culture that I was in, but some of my own habits and mindset, um, was the factor in burnout. And so that book I just handed out a lot of times at Christmas or for gifts. But that book for me, the Essentialist, or Essentialism, was just you know, it taught me so much about mindset, and that's what put me on the path to really, hone in on my mindset as well, and using it and for my benefit and not against me.
And our minds are not always our best friends, they're often our worst enemies.
Right. Yeah. A lot of being self-critical. And the words that we say to ourselves matter. They really do. They really, will affect how you feel. And then that then affects what you do.
What is one piece of advice you wish someone had given you when you started consulting?
Um, that being visible or talking about yourself isn't, tooting your own horn. It's helping others find the services that you have to help them, right? So I wish somebody taught me that sooner, that showing up and marketing yourself is also of service to help those people find you and not a vanity, something of vanity or tooting your own horn like I shared.
How long did it take you to get comfortable with, that it wasn't, I hear that so often. It's just, that self-promotion just feels so yucky, and
Yes. I would, I still think it's still, I'm putting in the reps. AJ, I'm still putting in the reps in the, like at the gym, right? So on building that muscle to, feel comfortable with it. But I would have to say like in that first 6 months of doing it. But I think finding people outside, online communities, or I started networking more offline and in person, and hearing or meeting other entrepreneurs, seeing what they're doing, seeing what they're putting out was like, oh, this is normal. This is how it's done. So that helped me get over the hump as well.
seeing them promoting, you probably didn't look at what they were doing to market as too salesy or self-promotion-y,
Right.
and if they can do that, and you as a somebody seeing their content are not getting those, this is too self-promotion-y, then yours won't either.
Right. And it helps me shape through looking at other content and like how I was engaging with it. I could tell like, oh, this feels more of, similar to how I feel, or more of like the tone of voice that I would like to lean into. That feels very comfortable this way. So that was helpful as well.
Kind of like a study of what other people are doing, and I like, this feels good, this one is not me, to find your
Yes.
authentic voice.
Yes, and that
Yeah.
is something that I am teaching the women inside the business mentorship that I have, is that sure, get on social media, but make sure that you're not, when you do get on Instagram or another social media app, don't just consume, but study what is it that you're liking? What is it that you're following? What is it about that person that you're following, right? Is it just what they do, or was it some sliver of maybe a personal, a personal aspect of them that you're following them for? So be curious and study and just look at the things. If you're saving it or liking it, just understand why you're liking it, and that will definitely shape how you market yourself.
Good advice, rather than just following the advice of everybody out there, because there's certainly a lot of opinions on what you should or shouldn't be saying and posting,
Mhm.
and it can be so confusing.
Right, it is. It sure is.
This is last question is the most important question. How can listeners connect with you if they want to learn more about you and your work?
Great. They can connect with me on LinkedIn, just like you did with me, AJ. I'm also at KirstinBrenders.com, which will be in your show notes, I know. And then I am also on Instagram at KirstinBrenders.co.
Okay, so KirstenBrenders.co on Instagram.
Mhm.
Kirstin Brenders is the way you find you on LinkedIn, and that is the name of your website.
Correct.
Perfect. And all of those will be in the show notes as well. Kirstin, thank you so much. It was wonderful interviewing you today, and I love the work that you're doing and the pivots you're making, and especially the mindset things that you're working through. You're an
Thank,
inspiration.
thank you so much, AJ. And likewise for you, you're an inspiration too.
Thanks. Well, have a great rest of the day, and for all of you out there listening, keep thriving through. I love Kirstin's honesty about being an accidental entrepreneur and how she's still putting in the reps to get comfortable with marketing herself. That's the reality of building a consulting business. We're all works in progress, and that's okay. The biggest takeaway for me from this conversation is Kirstin's courage to pivot when she noticed what was lighting her up. So many consultants force themselves to stay in a niche that doesn't energize them because they think that's what they're supposed to do. But Kirstin trusted her instincts, and that energy alignment is what's allowing her to build a business that's both profitable and fulfilling. And that reframe about marketing, that marketing yourself is actually a service because it helps people find the solutions they need, that's powerful. If you've been holding back from being visible because it feels too self promotion-y, I want you to remember that. There are people out there right now searching for exactly what you offer, and when you hide, you're making it harder for them to find you. If this episode resonated with you, connect with Kirstin on LinkedIn or check out her website at kirstinbrenders.com. If you haven't already, grab a copy of Essentialism by Greg McEwen. Both Kirstin and I can't recommend it enough for recovering from burnout and building sustainable business practices. Until next time, keep thriving through.